We are standing at a monumental moment in history. After 2 years of war, President Trump has made it clear the time has come to end the war. The time has come for peace. The U.S. 21-point Gaza plan requires Hamas to disarm, to step aside, and release all the hostages within the first 48 hours of a signed deal. Israel is on board, and so are key regional players: Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt. Hamas is up against the wall. If Hamas refuses, Trump warned there will be no safe harbor for its leaders. And he has said plainly, if Hamas rejects, Israel has the full American backing to finish the job against Hamas once and for all. And now the world waits, hopeful for our hostages to come home and an end to the suffering and grief their unimaginable captivity has wrought, for peace and for relief for the people of Gaza, who have suffered under Hamas for far too long, along with a Middle East exhausted by extremist tyranny and terror. But as we await Hamas's response, we remember October 7th, the day it all began, the day that launched this war. Israel has fought on 7 fronts since then: Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, Iraq, Yemen, even in Iran, and it has endured. But it started with a brutal massacre of Israeli civilians, families hunted in their homes, burned safe rooms, mass kidnappings, and systematic sexual violence and mutilation. Inhumane crimes documented by terrorists who committed them, and saviors and survivors who witnessed and endured the horrors, ensuring that sadly, the world does not forget, cannot forget, will not forget this evil enemy that at this moment is still operating on our borders. Here at TBN, we have lived this war on the front lines and on the airwaves. Some of us served in the IDF, others served, as I like to say, in the media army, fighting lies, propaganda, and the fog of war with truth and light. And tonight, October 7th, we unveil a project that has gripped every one of us, a labor of conviction and heart, Heroes of October 7th and Beyond, an 8-part series spanning 2 years of hard history, hosted by the one and only Erick Stakelbeck, told through the voices of those who lived it and the experts and leaders who shaped the strategy, including exclusive interviews with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Episode 1 begins where everything changed, October 7th. Stay with us, hear the story from the people who were there. Let it change how you understand what Israel has endured, the sacrifice, the sorrow, the hope, the unbreakable resilience, and the resolute victories. To commemorate October the 7th, we're sharing episode 1 on this solemn day. The entire series will air later on. We look forward to having you join our nation on this defining journey.
He called me and he said, wake up, open TV, because Israel is going down.
I went down immediately to our military headquarters in Tel Aviv and declared war.
In the face of that darkness, light emerged. Heroes rose up.
I fell down from the car, shooting from all over.
I know that I have only 10 bullets. What can I do with that? This is my destiny to be here.
If this is the prize, to see such a lot of people alive, it's okay.
When we look back, there are certain days in history that don't just happen, they shake the world. They don't just make the news, they set a ripple effect into motion that shifts everything. October 7th, 2023 was one of those days. It was Sukkot, the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles. It was the Sabbath, Shabbat, a beautiful sunny Saturday morning here in Israel. Kids were getting ready to go back to school. Families were wrapping up the holiday. Life was good. And then, in an instant, everything changed. What unfolded was pure, unadulterated evil, a massacre so brutal, so savage, that it sent a chill down the spine of the entire world. It wasn't just an attack, it was a turning point. A line was crossed that day, and nothing, not for Israel and not for the world, would ever be the same again. At 6:29 a.m. on October 7th, air raid sirens wailed across southern and central Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. For Israelis, sadly, that sound had become all too familiar. These sirens were designed to save lives, a warning to race to shelter, because rockets were coming from Gaza yet again. Over the past 2 decades, Hamas and other terror groups had fired more than 20,000 rockets and mortars into Israel, launching deadly barrages that led to at least 4 mini wars. The most intense of those conflicts before October 7th came in May 2021, when over 4,000 rockets were fired at Israel in just 11 days. But here's what you need to understand. Israel never struck first unless provoked. Never. They intercepted missiles with their Iron Dome defense system. They absorbed the hits, and they tried to contain Hamas through ceasefires and agreements. Defense, not offense. That was the Israeli way. A nation forced to be on guard, yet still choosing restraint, and all while facing relentless international pressure from the likes of the UN. The people who bore the brunt of it all were the families in Israel's southern border communities, places like Sderot, Nir Oz, and Kibbutz Be'eri. These were peaceful, pastoral towns where kids rode bikes past golden fields and families gathered under the stars for Shabbat. Life there, they would say, was 90% heaven, 10% hell. But that 10% came fast, without warning. The sirens meant parents had just 15 seconds to scoop up their children and run for shelter. Playgrounds were built under reinforced concrete. Schoolyards had fortified corners. The trauma was constant, but so was the resilience. Because these weren't people who gave in to fear. They planted roots. They raised families. They built lives, all while living under the constant threat of Hamas terror. And on October 7th, that fragile peace, that daily courage was shattered. Imagine waking up to thousands of heavily armed terrorists pouring across your country's border in a single morning, flooding into peaceful towns, farms, and homes with one single purpose: to hunt you down and kill you. I'm standing in a room that belonged to Ophir Shoshani, just 20 years old, a daughter, sister, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. On the morning of October 7th, Hamas terrorists stormed her home here in Kfar Aza. She managed to call her family as the gunmen broke in, and she was then murdered inside this house. Kfar Aza was one of the hardest hit communities that day. More than 60 people were slaughtered here. Entire families wiped out in their homes. That was the scale of October 7th. More than 3,000 Hamas terrorists, joined by thousands of Gazan civilians, infiltrated Israel's southern border. They ripped open the border in dozens of places, using bulldozers to smash through the fence, and poured in on motorbikes, pickup trucks, and even paragliders, all while drones crippled Israel's surveillance towers. At the very same time, Hamas launched thousands of rockets into Israeli cities and towns, overwhelming defenses and sowing chaos as the ground assault began. The attackers fanned out into Israeli communities, homes, and army bases, and one of their deadliest assaults was on the Nova Music Festival. On the weekend of October 7th, in the open farmlands near Kibbutz Raim, over 3,500 young people gathered for celebration of music, peace, and unity. What began as a night of joy turned into a nightmare. No one, not the festival goers, not the local communities, not even the IDF, was prepared for the sheer barbarity that Hamas unleashed.
الله أكبر ولله الحمد يا إخوان. طبعاً اللي لقيت سرايا القدس برضه.
But even in that darkness, heroes rose up. Civilians ran into the line of fire to rescue strangers. Ordinary Israelis became warriors, proving that courage isn't something you plan for, it's something you choose in the moment. One of those heroes was Eran Masas, a retired IDF officer living nearly 2 hours away from the Gaza border when he heard what was unfolding. But instead of watching from afar, he got in his car and drove straight into the fire. No orders, no hesitation, just a man on a mission to save lives. Eran, thanks so much for joining us. Your story is so important, but let's back up. Before October 7th, 25-year Army career, married, 4 beautiful kids. Tell us about your life before October 7th.
Well, I was, as you said, in the Army. This is my career, this is my life. It was a good school for me to be a good man and to get a lot of values to my life. But to be an officer in the Army, this is your first thing that you do and the last thing that you do at the day. Your family became the second thing. I decided that it's enough because I need to give to my children a father that they deserve and they really need it. And I go to work in the municipality of the city I live until October 7th.
Take us back to October 7th. You wake up that morning, you get a call. How did you find out about what was happening, what was unfolding down south?
I wake up in 6 o'clock, but I sat on the bed just thinking to myself, and then the phone rings. It was my brother, my big brother, so he's not used to call me these days at all. But he called me and he said, Eran, wake up, open TV, because Israel is going down. So I ran to the TV and open it. And the first picture that I saw is the truck in Sderot. That the terrorists shoot everybody that was around. Inside of me, something said, this is much more bigger than what we see. And in Israel at that time, 7 o'clock, something like that, we are not realized truly what's happened. Nobody knows. And it took me 3 minutes to decide that I'm going from Kiryat Ata straight to those terrorists. It was like somebody sit on my shoulders, the good and the evil. And the good always win and told me, this is what you need to do. I took my uniform, dressed. I know that I have only a gun with 10 bullets, so what can I do with that? And I get down and drove all the way. And I drove so fast, I never drove fast like that.
When you got there, where did you first arrive and what did you see?
Some guys that I know called me and he said, where are you? I need your help. There is a lot of young girls and boys that run from the fields. A few of them wounded, a few of them shots in the legs, and they are very panicked.
This was the Nova Music Festival.
That's right. I didn't know that at that time. And I thought that the terrorists that I saw on the TV, that's the only problem that we have. And this guy said, leave it all and come to Patish village because I need your help. And then I get inside Patish village, and then that was the first time that I saw guys and girls that ran away, those children, shocked, and it was chaos. And this is the first time that I said, okay, maybe this is my destiny to be here, and I need to do something. And I started yelling everybody and grab them together and put them in a safe place, in a shelter, because they was all around in the grass and outside looking for some answers. And I started to talk to them like I know something. And I said, okay, I'm here, I'm from the army, everything will be all right. I will protect you. They don't know I have only gun with 10 bullets. I will always remember how they look at me. They just need someone to tell them what to do and to calm down, to lead, that's right. And at that moment, some reporter that was around, he came with her camera inside my face.
אני לא נציג פיקוד העורף, אני כרגע הגעתי בהתנדבות.
And I told her that I don't know nothing. I just came here by accident, and she said, trust me, you are the only one here, and you are in charge. Just said something to the camera, to the people in Israel. Nobody know nothing. And I talked, like few minutes.
המסר המרכזי זה שאנחנו נהיה פה מלוכדים, כדי שנעבור את האירוע הזה בשלום, נחזיר את הילדים האלה הביתה.
I said, okay, anybody that needs some help or some question, please use my number. It's 052, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Minutes after that, some mother sent me a message, a voice message, and she said, my son and his friend was in the party. I begging you, go to that location because they talked to me 10 minutes ago, and I know they are alive, but they claimed on the tree, and they on the high tree, something like 6 hours, bleeding to death. But they said that they saw the terrorists around calling like they are the IDF.
And they were dressed in IDF uniforms.
Some of them. Some of them, yes. They understood that if they go down, those terrorists will kill them and keep them. And they said, we will not get down until someone will call our names. Immediately I left Patish, go to the car, and start drove in the road that gets straight to the party. I saw bodies on the road. I was focused on those guys to bring them to the mother. I go and start yelling their names. Every time I'm telling that story, my emotion is like, they run over and they hug me so strong. They was full of blood. You know, I remember that my uniform was full of blood because of the heat. And the first things I've done is take the phone, dial to their mother, and give them to hear their voice. This is a moment that makes me be a better father. To tell a mother that her son is okay, you know, and is alive in the hours that she didn't know nothing about it.
You saved their lives.
For them, it's their life. For me, it's something that I have to do.
It's your mission.
You know, after I took them to a safe place and they told me what's happening inside the Nova party, it was not a question for me. I just put them and make U-turn and go back there.
It does seem like your 25 years in the IDF prepared you for this moment, for that day.
Wow. Nothing prepares you to go through a day like that. Nothing. But that's the part that gave me a lot of hope at that day because I saved people. And the other part, the second part of the story, is the moments that I lost hope.
משטרה צה"ל! משטרה צה"ל! משטרה צה"ל!
I call it now that someone gave me a ticket to get inside to hell. And I visit hell.
הלאה, כיוון, אני פותח את השער. אני פותח, חפות. משטרה צה"ל.
For moments I believe that I lose my mind, in a way. because what those evil people done to our children is something that people cannot understand, and your mind cannot understand it.
יש לי פה הרוגים. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 הרוגים. יש פה מישהו.
I didn't tell that because for me it's not important, but in my way, the second time, I killed 3 terrorists that was supposed to kill me. And I want you to remember that with 10 bullets, I left with only 1 bullet at the end of the day. I was attempt to use these bullets for me. Because when I realized what I saw, I know that I'm not gonna be the same guy. And maybe I don't want to stay alive in a world like that, that human beings act and do things like what I saw.
יש בפנים? אוי ואבוי. אוי ואבוי. יש פה הרוגים, כולם הרוגים? כל הבמה הרוגים. כל הבר הרוגים. יש פה מישהו עם סימן חיים. שייתן לנו סימן חיים. מישהו שיכול לתת לנו סימן חיים. מי שלא ראה שדה קרב, שיראה אותו עכשיו.
They made an ambush for those who trying to escape. It was like the terrorists go car by car and make sure nobody was staying alive. I remember that I saw a very small, tiny car. It's supposed to take something like 4 people normally. There was something like 10 people inside of them, smashed together because they want to run away. The terrorists that killed them make sure that every one of them will get shot in his head. Even the guy that I remember that was smashed at the bottom of the car. And I keep moving, and I smell something weird. I go over there, and it was like a circle in the field that burned. So I get closer and closer, and then I realized that what my eye saw is 7 dead bodies of young boys and girls. How do I know that they were alive when they burned them? Because one of those bodies was in a shape like he is calling, his hand was raised, like calling for help, and his mouth was open like he's screaming for help. I sat on the floor, and for a moment I believed that I'm truly losing my mind because it can't happen. I saw those pictures when I was young in the Holocaust movies. And that's the moment that I decided to took all those bodies that was all around and bring them to a safe place to give them the last dignity that they deserve. And I remember them all. I remember the faces. I remember, I'm going to say something very difficult right now, how I took head that those terrorists cut off from one guy, and I was trying to match that head to the body because it was like 4 bodies without heads. And I tried to match the head to the body. First body that I became to pick, the first one. I remember her for the rest of my life, that's for sure. Because when I got close to her, she was all naked. I guess she was 27 years old, something like that. That's the moment that broke me more than everything that I saw over there. The moment that I thought about her father or mother, they sent her to go and party, smiling, happy. Maybe she said, "Trust me, nothing will happen. I'm safe." And I imagine on myself, what would I feel if I will find my girl in a situation like that? Naked, murdered. Sorry.
Doing great, Eran. I can't even imagine how difficult it is for you to even...
It is, but I said that the purpose is much more bigger than what we talk about now. It's much more bigger than that.
It is.
You know, I live that day like every day. I wake up in the morning, if I go to sleep, with all those footage in my head, all those sounds, and the smell, everything is inside of me. Like, you can see me now as a regular guy, smile, talk, but there is another Eran inside of me. I truly believe that I'm gonna get suicide.
What stopped you?
I was truly afraid that people will not say the truth about what's happening. And I said, if you will not stay here and fight for the truth, the history will not be the same. Nobody can argue with me. I'm not because I'm smart, because I have proof.
מישהו עם סימן חיים? לא. היא מתה. היא מתה. היא מתה.
I know that people like me and you and others that tell the true story can make the world better to my children. So in a way, I protect my children in that way, without weapon. My weapon is my evidence and the story that I'm telling.
Eran, thank you for sharing with us. I know how difficult it is. What you shared was powerful, and the world needs to hear it, and the world is hearing it and will hear it. We appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
You. Appreciate it. What Eran did that day with no orders, no hesitation, is nothing short of remarkable. His courage, quick action, and unwavering resolve in the face of unimaginable danger and evil exemplify the spirit of resilience and heroism that defines the Israeli people. Yet on that fateful morning at the Nova Festival, 378 innocent young people were slaughtered, 44 taken hostage, and hundreds left scarred and traumatized by what was Israel's deadliest civilian massacre ever. Up next, you'll meet another hero whose courage seemed endless, a 72-year-old resident of Kibbutz Magen who risked everything, died twice, and came back to share the story of how he saved his community. Stay with us.
Right now in Israel, thousands of soldiers are serving on the front lines, standing in harm's way to protect their communities and their homeland. They're strong, they're committed, and they're prepared. But there is still more we can do to support them by helping provide the extra equipment that keeps them safer, more protected, and better equipped to face what lies ahead. The Israel Magen Fund is working to empower these soldiers with critical gear, including ceramic vests, tactical helmets, protective eyewear, advanced backpacks, and other essentials that help meet real field needs. This isn't about comfort, it's about survival. And every piece of gear makes a tangible difference for someone's son, someone's brother, someone's friend, who is risking everything. At a time when we pray for peace, we're also called to stand with those who carry the burden of defense, both physically and spiritually. Every gift is an act of gratitude, of partnership, and of faith. To take part, visit israelmagenfund.org/give. That's israelmagenfund.org/give. Help empower the men and women protecting the people of Israel.
Let's talk about the Gaza envelope, those frontline Israeli communities that live just minutes from the terror stronghold known as Gaza. We're talking about dozens of small towns and kibbutzim. Altogether, some 70,000 Israelis lived in this stretch of land before October 7th. About 25 communities dot this region. These are salt-of-the-earth people, building lives on the very edge of constant danger. Israel had maintained a presence in Gaza since 1967, but back in 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from the Strip, dismantling 21 Jewish settlements and relocating 8,000 Israelis from an area called Gush Katif. Israel's leadership at the time hoped this would be the start of a better chapter, a step toward peace. But despite all that goodwill in 2006, the people in Gaza elected Hamas, a terrorist organization openly committed to Israel's destruction. Year after year, the rockets kept coming, thousands of them, red alert after red alert. Now, because of the threat, each kibbutz formed a civilian defense team, a Kitat Konenut, a rapid response squad made up of local volunteers. These weren't elite commandos. These were dads and moms with day jobs, armed with little more than an old M16 and the courage to stand between their families and terror. They trained, they stayed alert, and on October 7th, they became the front line. That morning, Hamas launched a barbaric assault, and those kibbutzim, they were the first hit. Be'eri, over 130 residents murdered. Nir Oz, half the community slaughtered or kidnapped. Kfar Aza, entire families wiped out. Re'im, Nirim, Alumim, all came under attack. We're talking about terrorists going door to door, burning, raping, torturing. The numbers are staggering. Over 1,200 Israelis murdered, more than 250 taken hostage. Babies, grandparents, young women. The evil that poured out of Gaza that day was demonic. And yet, in the face of that darkness, light emerged. Heroes rose up. In every kibbutz, brave men and women grabbed their rifles and fought to protect their neighbors. Some gave their lives doing it. Some held out for hours without backup. Some saved entire communities from destruction. Which brings us to Kibbutz Magen. Its very name means shield. While so many other places were overrun, Magen held the line. Why? Meet Baruch Cohen. Baruch doesn't call himself a hero, but everyone else does. And after hearing his story, you will too.
Baruch, it is an honor to have you with us. You've lived at Kibbutz Magen for over 50 years? Mm-hmm. How was life in Kibbutz Magen before October 7th?
First of all, I'm a local patriot. And Kibbutz Magen is the most beautiful place for me. And you feel strength in such a place where everyone is a part of you and you belong to this community.
And how far is the kibbutz from Gaza?
2 miles.
Just 2 miles.
There is a hill in the kibbutz. From my hill, I can see Niroz, I can see Nirim, and Ashlosha, all the kibbutzim.
All the kibbutz, yeah.
And I can see far away Khan Yunis. I can see the border from my hill.
You were in charge of civilian security for the kibbutz.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that, how you prepared for crises and rapid responses.
From the day that I began, it was 22 or 23 years ago, I decided to build a good group. A good group, you build it not in one day. You take normal people that was in the army, and you train them, and you give them exercise, and you teach them, and you give them all those things that they need if they shall need it in an emergency time.
And how did your time, you had a distinguished career in the IDF as a paratrooper. You fought in the Yom Kippur War and some other engagements as well.
Yeah.
How did your experience in the IDF affect the way you ran civilian security at the kibbutz? Did it influence it?
Okay, this group belonged to the kibbutz, but everything that I did with the IDF. The IDF is a part of it. It gave us ammunition, trained us, it gave us everything. My group knew that I should call them just if it's emergency time. So in the minute that I called them, on the 7th of October at 6:30 in the morning, and I told them, 10 of you, I want you to be ready with your suit, with your arm and everything. And I don't know for what. It was the first time that I called them for emergency time.
Now, when you called them, did you know that the invasion had begun?
At 6 in the morning, you heard such a lot of bombs, such a lot of missiles and everything. You have to ask yourself, why? So the only thing that you can thought about is maybe we killed Sinwar. But if we are going to kill Sinwar, I could know it before.
The IDF would tell
something's supposed to happen. And no one told me. And you have to understand another thing. 10 years before, we got a message that there are a few ways that our enemy can attack us. And the worst one was that one day there will be a lot of bombs. There will be an attack of 3 or 4 posts of the army. During the time that the army is running to those posts to help them, they shall make a bypass and they shall enter to one of the kibbutzim with about 50, 70 terrorists, and they shall send 4 motorcycles to Ofakim, it's a city behind us, to be exploded. 10 years before, I knew it. And at 6:30 in the morning, the only thing that could come to mind, it was that it's happened. And I enter to my car and I climb up to the hill. If you're an officer in the army, you know that you need a picture, what's going on. And from my place, I saw such a lot of bombs and rockets and everything, and nothing was moving. After 5 minutes, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and he told me, just now 2 motorcycles passed, and they killed my guardman. So that's make me another click. Okay, motorcycles, 2 motorcycles, it's not normal in our area. So I decided to go and to check what's going on. And I found a car staying on the road. The driver, woman with a bullet on her head. Her husband, a Bedouin, put his hands to the east, to Ofakim, and he said, we just passed now, we just passed now. 2 motorcycles. You can see about a mile in front of you, straight ahead. And I saw one of the motorcycles, and I decided to run over him. About 2 miles later, I arrived just behind him, and I take my pistol, and I shoot him. 3 bullets. And in that minute, I feel that my heart fell down. because it's maybe that in this minute you shoot a killer. And who are you that you judge him and you kill him just like that? But as he fell down and I saw his Kalashnikov AK-47, I understand that it's another story. And I make a U-turn and I called all the other group of mine to be ready. I got 26 members in this group. As I arrived to the kibbutz, all of them was ready. Now, when you're going to defend a place, there are a lot of ways to defend a place, to put in the gates, all around. And I told all of them to be on the west side of the kibbutz. It's been in front of the Gaza Street. And I climbed again to the hill to take a look. As I arrived to the top and I began to go down, I saw in front of me on our fence, about 200 meters from my place, 3 Toyota cars, 4 motorcycles, and about 50 terrorists that tried to enter to the kibbutz. They didn't saw me. Now, I can shoot them from those 200 meters, but it should not do anything because it's too far. Then they can see me and they can shoot me. Yeah. I did what I was learned and teach in the army. When you see your enemy, run over him. Don't stop. So I take my gun through the window, down the hill, shooting all over the way. During this time, all my members was shooting, and then I arrived about 20, 30 meters from them, and I couldn't arrive till them. So I have to take to the left to take a good position against them. And as I turned to the left, I got an RPG missile that was shooting to me, to the back of my car.
So you were hit with this rocket-propelled grenade?
There was a lot of shooting all around. The car continued to drive, but I have any condition, nothing to do. And I didn't understand why, and I looked down, and I saw that my ankle, my calf, was cut with my shoe. And I fell down from the car, shooting from all over. From one side, my group, and from the other side, the terrorists shooting. I couldn't fight, but I am a medic. That's one of my profession. And from that minute, I began to help my friend and ask him, Avi, that was his name, what happened? And he said, I got a bullet in my back. And I asked him, can you move a little bit? Just, I want to see. So he moved, I push up his shirt, and I saw the hole of the bullet. In that minute, I understand that he got maybe 5 minutes or an hour to live, because the bullet is inside and the bleeding is inside its stomach. In an hour, in an hospital, it can be alive. So from that minute, I tried to keep him awake and speak with him about his family, try to shout at him. I give him a punch. 20 minutes later, one of my group came, and he's a medic, and he put an intravenous infusion to my friend. I'm pushing the bottle like that, and he put a bandage over my leg. And I didn't understand why he put it so high. I knew about my ankle, but not so high. A few months later, when I met him, I asked him why he put it so high. And he said, you're down of your leg. There was another 3 bullets, and I didn't feel it when I was laying down on the ground, adrenaline and everything, you didn't feel it. During this time that we are laying down on the ground, the women called her daughter, she's a doctor, and told her, look, there is a wounded, come to help him. In the chopper, Avi was up on its bed. Then they put me behind him. I was holding the infusion like that. I saw that the medic is working on him, and I understand that he's going. And I shout to him, beat him, and nothing helped me, and he died after 5 minutes. as he died, I understand that I have no job. And I closed my eyes. And later they told me that I die in the chopper. They make me a CPR. And we land in Jerusalem. And in the hospital, I die the second time. And I wake up a week later in an emergency room in hospital.
So you were in a coma for a week?
In a trauma, yeah. Now, that's my story, but it's a small part. Because from the minute that we began to shoot, about 8.5 hours, we stay alone, without any help. Not the army, not the police, no special units, nothing. Alone against those terrorists. And
I mean, against, look, 50 Hamas terrorists?
Yeah.
Well-armed, well-trained?
Everything, and they couldn't enter inside.
But they tried for over 8 hours.
And they try, and they try, and they try. And my son, that was staying on the hill, on the place, he told me later that he saw that they come and bring more and more. Long day.
I would say so. And what a story of heroism for over 8 hours to hold off these Hamas terrorists, and they were never able to enter the kibbutz. How many did you lose in kibbutz Magen? And how
in
many
Magen, we are
team?
2 wounded and 2 died.
Tell us about your recovery, how it's been for you mentally, physically, obviously a very big adjustment.
As you wake up and you see that you don't have a leg, you change your life. It's a minute that you have to decide how should be your life. You can go down and to say, I lost my life. And from the other side, you can say, it's a new life, and I shall continue, and I shall do my best. There was a minute, it was Hanukkah, and I got a phone call from the Dead Sea. My kibbutz was sent to the Dead Sea.
So they had to evacuate, and they lived around the Dead Sea for several months.
And they called me if I can come to light a candle, Hanukkah. As I arrived to this place, all the children from the kibbutz was fighting who shall carry my wheeling chair. And as I entered to the lobby, all the kibbutz was staying there, singing and smiling and everything. I looked at them, take down my head, and I cried for 5 minutes. And then I take up my head, look at them, push on my leg, and I said, if this is the price, to see such a lot of people alive, it's okay. And that's my way. I did it because I have to do it. That was my job. If today I have to do it, I shall do it the same thing.
Baruch, powerful words. You are a hero, sir. We're so honored to be with you today. Thank you for everything you do, and God bless you. We appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right now in Israel, thousands of soldiers are serving on the front lines, standing in harm's way to protect their communities and their homeland. They're strong, they're committed, and they're prepared. But there is still more we can do to support them by helping provide the extra equipment that keeps them safer, more protected, and better equipped to face what lies ahead. The Israel Magen Fund is working to empower these soldiers with critical gear, including ceramic vests, tactical helmets, protective eyewear, advanced backpacks, and other essentials that help meet real field needs. This isn't about comfort, it's about survival. And every piece of gear makes a tangible difference for someone's son, someone's brother, someone's friend, who is risking everything. At a time when we pray for peace, we're also called to stand with those who carry the burden of defense, both physically and spiritually. Every gift is an act of gratitude, of partnership, and of faith. To take part, visit israelmagenfund.org/give. That's israelmagenfund.org/give. Help empower the men and women protecting the people of Israel.
While October 7th felt like the beginning of something new and awful, in truth, it was the latest eruption of something very ancient. A day that shocked the world, yes, but also a day that was years in the making. What happened didn't emerge from a vacuum. This wasn't just about Hamas, and it wasn't just about Gaza. It's part of a much bigger picture, a network of terror, extremist ideology, and hatred that stretches far beyond Israel's borders.
Look, I'm 28 years old. I've had to defend my country in 2 wars and in many battles. Nobody wants peace more than Israel.
Israel unilaterally withdrew from every inch of Gaza. Instead, we got an Iranian-backed terror base. We know all too well the cost of war. For the first time in 100 generations, we, the Jewish people, can defend ourselves. Those who have personally suffered the curse of war can best appreciate the blessings of peace. Yes, we're defending ourselves, but we're also defending you against a common enemy that through violence and terror seeks to destroy our way of life.
Mr. Prime Minister, thanks so much for joining us here in Jerusalem and hosting us. I want to take it back to October 7th, 2023, that fateful day. Tell us when you first knew that this was something different and the responsibility you felt as a leader of Israel to respond.
Well, it was Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, 6:29 in the morning. I got a phone call from my military secretary. He said, "We've been invaded." I went down immediately to our military headquarters in Tel Aviv, called for a general conscription of all our reserves, and declared war. אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. Because what they did was so horrendous. As the news came in, it was horrendous. They not only decapitated innocent men, they raped and then murdered women. They burned babies alive in front of their parents. They took 255 hostages, grandmothers and grandchildren. Holocaust survivors, babies. I mean, monstrous. And so we knew we had to fight them back and roll them back, and we did immediately. But on the second day of the war, Hezbollah, the other Iranian proxy from the north, remember that Hamas comes from the south, Hezbollah joins from the north, and we held them back. But I said at that point, on the second day of the war, we shall change the face of the Middle East, because I understood immediately that we're facing Iran and its proxies. And when we take out these proxies one by one, when we hit them, ultimately we'll have to deal with Iran too. And this is what we learned in Jewish history. If somebody is saying that we're out to annihilate you, as Hamas said, as Hezbollah said, as Iran said, take them seriously. And the first thing we had to do, and this was in my mind, the first thing, roll them back and then hit them very, very hard. And that's exactly what we proceeded to do. This war can be over tomorrow. Hamas has to lay down its arms and release hostages. This war is over. You know, Hamas talks about death to Israel, death to America, death to the West, just like Iran does, because it's a proxy of Iran. It shares the same fanatic ideology, anti-Western, anti-American. They had a Palestinian state in Gaza, a de facto Palestinian state run by Hamas. Now, what did it do? Did it seek peace? No, because the whole quest for a Palestinian state isn't for Palestinian self-governance. They already have it there. It's not to create a state, it's to destroy a state, the Jewish state.
It's our country, it's our country. Fuck this un-American, burn it down, burn it down.
There's a fanatic, radical Islam wins in the Middle East. Not only Israel will be imperiled, the moderate Arab regimes will go down the tube too, but it'll gravitate towards Europe. And let me tell you something, Eric, I'll tell you this, it'll come to the United States. This extremism will haunt the Western world.
You look out over your life and your career, you've talked about living a life of purpose. Mm-hmm. Some would say, to use a biblical reference, that you're in this position, I know you've heard this before, for such a time as this. How do you feel about that?
I'm here for a mission. And the mission is to do, in my time, as the leader of this country, to assure the future of the Jewish state. My late brother, who died rescuing hostages at the historic raid on Entebbe, when he was a young soldier, he said, "I'd rather be here fighting for the survival of the Jewish state than have it being told by historians that Israel was a short episode in the history of the wandering Jew." And I've devoted my life to making sure that that remains the case.
Mr. Prime Minister, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
From the streets of Gaza to Hezbollah in Beirut, to militias in Iraq and Syria, and Houthi terrorists in Yemen, and yes, straight to Tehran. This is a story of proxies and puppet masters, of a regime in Iran that's not just obsessed with wiping Israel off the map, but with bringing down the entire free world as we know it. And Israel? Israel hasn't just been fighting a war, it's standing at the epicenter of a global battle between freedom and tyranny, truth and lies, life and death. So just as this war began in Gaza, that's where our journey begins too. Because if we want to understand what came next, we need to first understand what made it possible. In the episodes ahead, we're going to pull back the curtain. We'll expose the hidden players, the regional shakeups, and the spiritual and strategic battle that's playing out right now in the Middle East, but has been brewing for decades. And we'll hear from the heroes who have lived it, the soldiers, the mothers, the leaders, and the hostages, like Keith Siegel, who was in Hamas captivity inside Gaza for 484 days.
What would your message be to the world about the reality of what's happening in Gaza?
I want to talk about the hostages that are still in captivity. Every day there is abuse, whether it be direct physical or psychological, or just the fact that you're there and you have no idea when or even if you'll be released. To put to the side the violence, the abuse, the torture that I experienced and I witnessed others experience, I think any person in the world that considers themselves moral people, humane people, must recognize the fact that Hamas is responsible for the suffering of people of all faiths and all nationalities that were victims of the atrocities. The people of Gaza continue to suffer because of Hamas. I don't understand how anybody can blame Israel for this.
This isn't just about Israel's survival. This is about the battle for the very soul of the free world. And folks, this is just the beginning.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.